All right, let's dive into a country that's, believe it or not, smaller than Lake Michigan, but it packs a biological punch that can rival entire continents. Yep, we're talking about the one and only Costa Rica.
So, to really wrap your head around this, get this. This one tiny nation is home to an absolutely incredible 5% of all known species on Earth. But okay, here's the real kicker. It does all of that while covering a minuscule, almost unbelievable 0.03% of the planet's surface. Just let that sink in for a second. The concentration of life there is just staggering. So that leads to the big question, right? How is that even possible? How does one little country become this absolute powerhouse of biodiversity? Well, let's figure it out. The secret, it turns out, is all about geography. You see, there's this massive spine of mountains that runs right down the middle of the country. And this isn't just some boring mountain range on a map. No, it's basically the architect of life here. It slices the nation in two and creates these wildly different worlds, sometimes just a few miles apart from each other. And the engine driving all this diversity, it's a really cool process called the rain shadow effect. It's actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. So just picture this. Moist, wet winds blow in from the Caribbean. They smack into these mountains and have nowhere to go but up. As that air rises, it gets cold and has to drop all its rain right there on the Caribbean side. Now, by the time that air makes it over the mountains and starts to come down on the Pacific slope, well, it's totally dry. And just like that, you've got two completely different climates. Okay, so let's start our little tour down in the lowlands. Now, when you think of Costa Rica, you're probably picturing a rainforest, right? And you're not wrong. But here's the thing. Thanks to those mountains we just talked about, there isn't just one kind of rainforest. Oh no, there are two, and each one has its own totally unique personality. And the differences are pretty wild when you look at them side by side. The Caribbean side, it's wet pretty much all year long, but you hop over to the Pacific and bam, you've got a really distinct dry season. And that one little difference in rainfall changes everything. It's why you find the great green macaw on the Caribbean coast, while its famous cousin, the scarlet macaw, rules the Pacific. Even the basilisk lizards, the ones that can run on water, the Jesus Christ lizards, they've split into two separate species. You've got the brown basilisk in the Caribbean and the common basilisk over on the Pacific. And that little ball of energy, the Central American squirrel monkey, you're only going to find that guy on the Pacific side. It's amazing. That Pacific rainforest, especially down on the Osa Peninsula, is just on another level. It's so packed with life that National Geographic once called Corcovado National Park the most biologically intense place on Earth. And that is not hyperbole. Seriously, it's one of the only places in the world where you can see all four of Costa Rica's monkey species in just one day. How cool is that? All right, so now let's head northwest, right into that rain shadow we were talking about earlier. And here, we find a world that could not be more different from the rainforests. We're talking about the tropical dry forest, an ecosystem that goes through this absolutely radical transformation every single year. You could say this forest really lives two completely different lives. For about half the year, during the wet season, it's just what you'd expect, a lush, vibrant green jungle. But then, from around December to April, the rain just stops completely. And to survive months of drought, and that's the key, it's about water, not cold, the trees drop all their leaves. The entire landscape just transforms from green to this beautiful brown and gold. So you gotta wonder, how does anything survive a 6-month drought? Well, life gets very, very creative. You've got amphibians like the yellow toad that just bury themselves underground and go into a kind of suspended animation. It's called estivation. Howler monkeys, they've been seen desperately licking moisture from inside tree cavities. A lot of the trees actually wait for their branches to be totally bare before they burst into flower, making them an unmissable target for pollinators. And of course, pretty much all the wildlife gathers at whatever water holes are left, which, makes for some pretty intense but amazing animal watching. Okay, you ready to climb? Let's leave the heat and the dust of the lowlands behind and start heading up that central mountain spine. And as we go up, you can feel the air getting cooler, damper, and suddenly we're in an entirely new realm. Welcome to the cloud forest, an enchanted world that's almost always wrapped in mist. In this place, one type of plant is king. If you go to the famous Monteverde cloud forest, almost a third of all the plant life you see are things called epiphytes. Basically, they're air plants. Think of orchids, bromeliads, all kinds of ferns. They don't even need soil.
They just grow on top of other plants, covering every single branch and trunk in this thick, green, spongy carpet that soaks up moisture right out of the air, right from the fog. And this unique, misty world is home to some seriously spectacular birds. This is the main stronghold for the legendary resplendent quetzal. I mean, a bird that many people say is the most beautiful in the entire world. And it's also where you can hear this totally bizarre, super loud, metallic bonk sound just echoing through the fog. That's the three-wattled bellbird. You can't miss it. But, it's also a really fragile world. This little guy you're seeing, this brilliant orange toad, that was the golden toad. It was a species that was only found in one tiny 4-square-kilometer patch of forest in Monteverde, nowhere else on Earth. And the last one was seen in 1989. Its extinction is just a tragic, heartbreaking reminder of just how incredibly sensitive these unique ecosystems really are. Okay, let's keep climbing. We're going all the way up to the very highest peaks, over 3,000 meters. And up here, the trees they can't make it. And you pop out into this landscape that feels wrong. It feels more like you're in the Andes or maybe the Scottish Highlands, not Central America. This place is called the Paramo. What defines life up here is just insane daily temperature swings. During the day, you've got that powerful tropical sun, so it can feel cool but pretty pleasant. But the second the sun goes down, the temperature absolutely plummets, way below freezing. It's like going from a nice spring day to a harsh winter night every single day. Wild. So what you have are these sky islands. They're literally islands of cold alpine habitat, totally isolated and surrounded by this huge sea of warm tropical lowlands. And that isolation is key. It means that any species that ended up here got trapped, and they had to evolve all on their own. This leads to some really unique creatures you can't find anywhere else on the planet, like the volcano junco bird or the super rare Central American tapeti rat. All right, for the last stop on our incredible journey, we're heading all the way back down the mountain, right to the coast. We're going to explore a super important ecosystem that connects the land and the sea, the mangrove forests. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that the distribution of these forests is completely lopsided. It all goes back to that rain shadow we talked about. The geography on the Pacific coast, with all its river mouths and bigger tides, just creates the perfect home for mangroves. And the result? A mind-boggling 99%. Yeah, 99% of all of Costa Rica's mangroves are on the Pacific side, just 1% on the Caribbean.
And why should you care about mangroves? Well, because they're basically ecological superheroes. I mean, they act as nurseries for tons of fish and shrimp. They're a safe haven for crocodiles, monkeys, and all kinds of birds. They serve as a natural wall, protecting the coastline from storm surges. And on top of all that, they're what we call blue carbon sinks, which means they are amazing at capturing and storing carbon, helping us fight climate change. They really are incredible.
So think about the journey we just took. From those golden dry plains to the misty cloud forests, from the freezing tundra of the Sky Islands, all the way down to the vital mangrove swamps. Every single one of those different worlds was created by that one spine of mountains. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If one tiny country can hide all of this incredible diversity, just imagine what other wonders are out there, tucked away in the world's thousands of other microclimates.